Sifter for the ear.
News, interviews, reviews, cinema, TV, streaming. Action!
Hi y'all, this is Jerry Williams, aka TV Jerry. You may have heard my show with Deb Freeman in July about her documentary, Finding Edna Lewis. This film about the groundbreaking Virginia-born chef will be screened with a panel discussion on Thursday, February 20th at 5:30 at VCU's Institute for Contemporary Art. I'll have a link on the webpage for this show at TV Jerry.
And then I see her. Here she comes, and she's coming down the stairs, and he's in the aisle, and she gets up behind him, and she grabs him by the shoulders and just kind of gently moves him to the side, like, like any old man is blocking the way, like, excuse me.
That was today's returning guest, Adam Tex Davis, and the old man his wife moved to the side was Martin Scorsese at the premiere of The Aviator. Davis has had a successful career writing comedy for movies and TV shows. In this second installment, he'll explain the various ways to punch up a script, plus more celebrity stories, including his new Oscar podcast with comedy legend Bruce Vilanch.
Sifter Review of the Week.
The Gorge on Apple TV+. Miles Teller and Anna Taylor-Joy play sharpshooters who are assigned to guard opposing towers that overlook this massive, mysterious gap. They're not supposed to communicate, but the couple ends up in an unlikely relationship. This is a sci-fi story, so it's necessary to allow some credibility issues. But looking past that is a film that serves as a romance and an adventure. Fortunately, the chemistry between the actors keeps him interesting, with Taylor-Joy creating a cool, enjoyable person, while Teller plays it mostly stolid, hoping to boost his leading man cred. On the other side, director Scott Derrickson has staged the action scenes with noisy effectiveness. Some of that noise may be contributed to the soundtrack by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. This film belongs on the big screen. The expansive location and the big sequences would benefit from a larger platform. But even on a streamer, The Gorge is enjoyable popcorn entertainment. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Let's continue my discussion with Adam Tex Davis with this question about punching up a script. Now, you mentioned in there somewhere in that conversation about punching up. I wanted to ask you about that. We've all heard that expression. Tell me exactly how you do that and without insulting the previous writer, or maybe you do. And then maybe some of the ones you can tell us about that you were allowed to mention, or maybe you can't usually because of credits and things.
Well, here's the thing. You don't get a credit unless you do a significant amount of rewriting. So
right.
I think it's 45%, and they have to be able to see what was there and what was there after you did it and what got shot, and then, figure out a percentage. So like a punch-up job, you're never going to get credit on. People will ask about rewrites all the time. So there's different stages of rewriting a script. Like there's what's called a page 1 rewrite, where, say, a studio has bought a script and they like the log line. They like the 1 or 2 sentence description of what it is. Right. Like if it's Jaws, it's like shark terrorizes
small beach town.
East Coast,
right.
Yeah, exactly. East Coast beach town. Okay, they like that, but they don't like anything else in the script. Anything else, or they don't care that much about anything else in the script. So they're like, what would you do with that idea? And then you would pitch them your version, and they say, great, now do a page 1 rewrite. You don't have to be beholden to anything in the existing script, and you can literally start the rewrite right at page 1 and change everything.
And you're allowed to read the previous script too, though, right?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, you would read the script, and then you would formulate what's called your take. What's
right.
my take? How is it going to be different than what's there?
Sure.
And in some cases, you might see stuff that you like. I got hired to do a page 1 rewrite, but there was one scene in this movie that I thought was so funny and so great. I was like, I want to keep that scene. And they're like, okay, if you can make it work, make it work. But that's the page 1 rewrite. Then sometimes you're hired to just do, say it's a punch up, or, it could be a character thing. Hey, we want to either put a new character in there, or we want to change a character, or maybe, it's a character, it's played by a dude, but we're going to get Queen Latifah's going to play it. Could you rewrite the character to be Queen Latifah?
Did you actually do that? Is that a real story, or is that just...
It is a real story. I didn't do that, but I had a friend. Yeah, there was a famous, or just, can you make the characters stronger? So maybe
right.
It's a character pass. Other times it's a comedy pass. Hey, we've got a comedy movie. Can you go through it and add jokes wherever you can see fit to add a joke? Some of those are bigger, and some of those are literally the smallest thing is just like a punch up, polish, or whatever, where you just do one pass through the movie and add jokes to it. That you get on your reputation. If they think you're funny, you might get hired to do
Right.
that kind of thing. So one of the very first gigs I ever got was a comedy punch up. It was a spoof of the movie Titanic, and it was called Gigantic. And my manager was able to get me into a room of about 5 or 6 other writers, and we were all just taking the script and just trying to add as many jokes and stuff to it as possible. I was happy to be there because I was the only one in that entire room that hadn't actually sold a script. So what happened for me was I graduated film school. I'm working in a bagel store and I'm working in a car wash factory, but at night I'm writing scripts. I'm having ideas and I'm writing my scripts.
Sure.
And my student film made the rounds, got into some festivals, won some things, but somebody took it out to LA. They said, I love your movie. I'm going to show it to some people out in LA. And I get a call from my manager and he says, I love your movie. Can't do anything with that, but what else do you have? I said, I've written 4 scripts. And he said, send me your best 2. And he called me back. He's like, we want to sign you. So I had those as like samples. So those went around town. People saw it. Neither one of them got made, but they showed that I could be funny. So I got on this gigantic rewrite, and that was literally just punching up a script. Here's the scene, change the dialogue slightly and add a joke.
Are there any you can tell us about, or is that all anonymous?
No, I mean, like there was a movie, Ride Along.
Footnote.
Ride Along was a 2014 buddy cop comedy starring Ice Cube and Kevin Hart.
At one point, I actually even did a full rewrite of the script, but then, some of the jokes I think might have persevered. I know I got the movie Hitch with Will Smith.
Footnote.
Hitch was a 2005 comedy starring Will Smith and Eva Mendes.
And I think 1 or 2 of my things might have made it into the movie. A lot of the work you do doesn't get made. And that's the other part of the business. And you kind of have to make peace with that. Like if you're going to be a professional, just know that you're going to do a lot of writing that doesn't result in on the screen. But if you're getting paid, then you're not working in a bagel store and you're not working at a car wash factory.
Explain that. This is not a factory that makes car washes.
It is.
They actually make the ones the automated ones you drive through.
We made the parts that would then go into a car wash. So the conveyor that would pull your car along, we made those sections in 10 feet sections. We made the rocker brushes. We made the tire brushes, the curtain thing. It was my uncle who owned the factory.
You're the Nepo
Yeah,
baby.
it was such a Nepo, yeah. I started working there in high school every summer. So they brought me to a car wash in Irvington, New Jersey, which is not a nice place. It's minutes from Newark Airport. It is not a good part of New Jersey. And I'm in the car wash and I'm up on the ladder and I'm doing a repair on top of this, it's called the curtain, it's like, the thing that hangs down, but it's like something's not working. The curtain things are getting jammed and they're not going back and forth the way they're supposed to. Car wash is obviously shut off and closed down. But while I'm up there, all of a sudden I hear and all the machines are whirring to life. And I'm like, did somebody hit the thing? No. There's a guy in the town, he's a pimp, and he insisted at gunpoint that his Cadillac get washed.
Wow.
So they had no choice but to turn on the machines and let this guy have his car go through the car wash, even though I'm up on the thing.
Wow.
Now soap and stuff is flying in my face and water, and it's hot and steamy, and I'm holding on, and I'm like, if I fall and land on the pimp's car hood and dent it, I will be shot on sight. So I'm trying to work out pimp car wash scene.
I was going to say, there's a movie called Car Wash, but so is that still an idea? You're still working on trying to figure that one out, huh?
Yeah. I'm just, whether it's the scene or whether it's the car wash or how do I get pimps and car washes and inexperienced repair people?
Now, I know that you mentioned one time that your wife almost got you in trouble.
Yeah. So this is hilarious. So
I'll be the judge of that.
Yeah, all right, yeah, that's fine. Well, like I said, I was working with Leonardo DiCaprio on My Gardener of Eden, and it was right when The Aviator was coming out.
Footnote.
The Aviator was Martin Scorsese's 2004 biopic of Howard Hughes, starring Leonardo DiCaprio in the title role.
So I get an invite to the premiere of The Aviator at the Ziegfeld Theater in New York. And obviously Scorsese directed it. He's my hero. Right. So I put on a suit. I never wear a suit. I'm wearing a suit. My wife is dressed to the nines. We look fantastic. We haven't looked this good since our wedding. And we show up. The director of Garden of Eden is this guy, Kevin Connolly, who played E on Entourage.
Right.
So he's there and he's like, hey, Tex. Leo's father knows me. He's like, Tex, hey. And like, I'm sitting in the Leo family section and it's like, oh my God, this is great. This is great. And like, it's shaking hands. Ethan Suplee was there too. He was still in the movie at the point. We're hanging out talking. And all of a sudden my wife is like, I got to go to the bathroom. And I'm like, what? And she's like, I got to go. I go, oh, why didn't you do that before? Like, the movie's going to start. This theater is gigantic. You're never going to find the seat. Hurry, hurry. And so she leaves. She goes up the aisle and she runs up to the bathroom. And I'm just sitting there and I'm just waiting for the lights to go out and for her to not find the seat and like asking people. And for some reason, it's like the story of Hanukkah, the lights stayed on. And I don't know why. Somebody came out and said, all right, everybody, we're going to start the movie. But it's not starting and the lights are on. And I turn and I look and I see why. Because Martin Scorsese is slowly making his way down the stairs, shaking hands with the people on the aisle, patting, waving, doing the whole thing. And it's like, oh, thank God, Marty. And he's probably going to sit right up front. So the whole way down, my wife has that extra time. And then I see her. Here she comes. And she's coming down the stairs. And he's in the aisle. And she gets up behind him and she grabs him by the shoulders and just kind of gently moves him to the side, like, like any old man is blocking the way, like, excuse me. And she moves him aside. And Marty Scorsese makes like this face like, oh, excuse me. But at the same time, he's kind of also checking her out because she looks great. And she continues down the thing. And I'm now slinking down in my seat, like, don't sit next to me. And she comes over and she sits down and then she goes, who's that old guy just standing in the way? And I was just like, fucking kill me now.
Really? But he was cool with it, obviously. I mean, he pretty much said...
he made a little face, like the face he's made in like movies and stuff. Yeah. Like, it looked like a Curb Your Enthusiasm scene. And no, he was great. And unfortunately, the biggest letdown was like, at the after party for the movie, they come to me and they're like, hey, so I know you wanted to meet Mr. Scorsese, but his wife isn't feeling so well and he doesn't do these parties that much. So he went home. So I was like, I was a little bummed that we didn't get to meet Marty that night.
Somehow you worked with Neil deGrasse Tyson. What was that about?
We've done our educational science-y shows. We did Brain Games, and then we did that show Brainchild with Pharrell. Now we do a podcast called Who Smarted, which is a kids' educational podcast.
And a great pun.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. One of my prouder things coming up with Who Smarted. And we do a thing called promo swaps, which you probably know, where another podcast talks about your show, you talk about their show, and hopefully you help build your audience by getting the other audience involved. And if you don't do that, you should be doing that.
I don't, but I will consider that now. Okay.
So we reached out to a lot of the big podcasts that were in the science space, and of course one of them is Star Talk, which is the Neil deGrasse Tyson podcast. And we reached out to the people at Star Talk and we were like, hey, would you guys be interested in doing a promo swap? Would you guys talk about Who Smarted? Or we could record something, you play it on Star Talk, and we do the same thing for you guys. And they said, wait, we love your stuff. Neil would love to meet you guys. We should be doing something bigger together. And we're like, oh. So next thing you know, we're on a Zoom call with Neil and we're pitching ideas for a show. And then we decide, you know what, Neil, one of your books, Starry Messenger, would make an excellent show. Every chapter practically is an episode or two. Why don't we try to turn that into a show? And so he was like, I love it. So next thing you know, we shot a sizzle with him and we went out to all the networks with this Neil deGrasse Tyson show. Unfortunately, the way things are, it's a little too smart for a lot of the networks. And we were getting a lot of, I don't know, could you dumb it down? And like he talks about how gambling, the casino, it's bad to gamble because the odds are against you. But there are other odds in life where you have better odds than you think, and you should take that chance. And they're like, but our audience loves casinos. Could Neil give tips on how to get better at blackjack? It's like, what? No. So,
Studios.
Yeah, we had a great time, though, and we met him multiple times. We had a great shoot with him. He is by far the smartest guy I've ever talked to. He knows everything about everything, and he's fantastic. So I really do hope we get to make this show at some point.
So speaking of podcast and cross promotions, you've got a new podcast coming up. What's that all about?
I do have a new podcast. Thank you for asking, Jerry. Obviously I love movies and I'm steeped in movies and I'm a big movie watcher. So one thing I'm always intrigued by is the Academy Awards And why do they always seem to get it wrong, or at least make lots of like mistakes and oversights and flubs? So I have a new podcast that we just launched a couple weeks ago. It's called The Oscars. What were they thinking? And it's me, but I knew I needed a bigger draw than just me. So we got Bruce Vilanch, the famous, iconic comedy writer and also writer of the Oscars. He wrote the Oscars for 25 plus years. So he's got all tons of behind the scenes stories, but he's just a living legacy of the Oscars and also of movie history.
And a funny as hell guy.
Oh yeah. I mean, he is hilarious. And so, yeah, I just try to keep up. I just try to keep up with him. But we debate the Oscars of the past using the test of time. And, we don't always see eye to eye. In fact, he defends the Oscars a little more than I even thought he would. And I'm like, why wouldn't Back to the Future win? It's better than both Out of Africa and The Color Purple. I'd rather see Back to the Future. They didn't make 3 sequels of The Color Purple or Out of Africa. There's no Broadway musical of Out of Africa. We go back and forth. But, it's a super fun time. We go year by year. Award by award, and we pick apart the Oscars, and we do it with humor and experience.
How often is it going to be coming? Is it weekly or monthly or?
Right now, it's coming out every other week. So we have 3 episodes right at the time of this taping. There's 3 episodes that are out. We started with 1989, which was the first year that Bruce actually worked on the show. Then we did the 2010 Oscars for the 2009 movies. So that was like Avatar versus The Hurt Locker and James Cameron going from the king of the world to losing to his ex-wife. And then we did 1985 movies, Color Purple versus Out of Africa. They were nominated for 11 each. But then, I still think Back to the Future is the best of the movie that came out that year. Yeah, and then the next one's going to be 61 Oscars for the 1960 movies, because 3 amazing movies came out that year, but only one of them was actually nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Yeah, there is a lot of that. So, and then, Bruce is great because he's seen all the movies, A, and B, he brings the historical context of why and what the Academy was probably thinking at that time and why this gets nominated or voted on or whatever.
So he's dropped out of writing it now? He doesn't do it anymore?
He doesn't do it officially. He's certainly not like he said he did 25 years officially, and then there was other years that were unofficial. I'm sure if they need a joke, get Bruce. I mean, the documentary was called Get Bruce. They would literally made a movie about employing Bruce to come up with punch-ups and stuff. But yeah, he still works. I know he has a book coming out. I think it's called It Was a Bad Idea at the Time, about all these movies and stuff that he worked on that went down as some of the worst television, like the Star Wars Christmas and Can't Stop the Music.
Oh, yeah. And actually, I did see his movie. It was very entertaining. Speaking of that, and you said you're, like me, a crazy movie nut. What are you watching right now? What either TV series or movie have you seen lately that you think's pretty special or terrible even?
Well, I'm excited to go see Honora this weekend.
I loved it. My favorite movie in the last 6 months. I gave it 5 stars. I think it's great.
Fantastic. I went to school with Sean Baker. He was in my class.
Cool.
Footnote.
Sean Baker is the director of Tangerine, The Florida Project, and the current Oscar nominee for Best Picture, and my favorite of the year, Honora.
He was a quiet dude, but he made great films. I mean, it's funny, film school, you have to sit and watch everybody's student film, and it could be so painful.
Oh, yeah.
How could 7 minutes take that long? And it was so refreshing when it was Sean Baker Film Day. And he was always great. So, I'm a big fan of.
And of course, his first movie was shot on an iPhone too.
It wasn't. No, he had actually done some stuff before
that.
Hey,
okay, well, that was the one he got all the notice for, because
that's where you got the notice from. Tangerine was shot on the iPhone, and then the Florida Project obviously helped put him into a different category.
Red Rocket was great too. I've liked all his movies, and I think Honora's really. It's funny because you mentioned that 2 of my friends who really love movies both went to see it because I raved about it, and they both hated it. And I'm like, oh, you got no taste. So I'll be interesting to see what you think, because I thought it was great.
I love horror movies. I don't know. I write comedies, but I love horror. But I've actually been writing some horror stuff too. I just saw Heretic with Hugh Grant.
Footnote.
Heretic was released on November 2024, starring Hugh Grant as a villain.
Yeah,
if it didn't have him, it would have been nothing.
Exactly. But he was great. And what else? I watch a lot of movies, older movies. That's the thing. I'm right now. I'm watching a 1960s Japanese horror movie called The Sinners from Hell. Like I love weird stuff, and I love movies 40s, 50s. I've seen, I have a film noir list, a 750
Wow.
movie list of film noir. I've seen 510 at this point.
Good Lord.
I love just diving deep into older movies and stuff. And I've got, obviously with this Oscar show, I'm trying to watch as many nominees and Oscar winners as possible so I can talk from a place of having seen it. And I got to say, I have a lot of lists that I use. I have my film noir list, my westerns list, my horror movie list. I even have a Roger Ebert, a 382 great movies list that Roger Ebert put together.
Wow.
And the list that is the most tedious and homework-like is the Academy Awards one. I gotta say, especially in the 2000s and the 2010s, it's like, I don't want to see these movies. They're not something I would gravitate towards. So
Yeah. So you got that podcast. You have another podcast too, right?
I do.
You just can't stop, can you?
Well, you know what it is? Here's the thing. After so many years of being beholden to the studios and the networks with the TV shows and the movies, it's nice to just have your own agency and your own control over things. And that's when we realized, like, we started podcasting in the pandemic because we couldn't pitch, we couldn't shoot, we couldn't do anything, we couldn't leave our houses. So we got microphones and we just started scripting the Who Smarted show and then recording it, and everybody records separately and we compile it. The beautiful thing about podcasting is, like, you own it, and no one's giving me notes. If anything, I'm giving the notes, or I'm just writing, and then just it goes to the actors and they record it. So we got into podcasting, and we didn't know how long it would last. Pandemic ended, but our Who Smarted show had jumped up the charts and was now one of the top kids educational shows in the world. So suddenly, okay, well, that's a viable thing. We're going to keep that going. Then we got hired to do another kids educational show called Mysteries About True Histories. Take the first letter of those words, it spells math. So we have hidden math in every episode because no podcast is doing anything about math.
Who would listen to it?
Yeah, exactly. But it's a fun mystery story that has these kid characters, and then they always have to do solve some kind of math thing to keep the troublesome trolls from screwing up the world.
Right.
Then we were like, okay, we gotta do adult stuff so that we could have anybody can advertise on your adult podcast as opposed to the kids shows where it can only be appropriate. So my wife is a huge true crime fan, and I had this fun title, a murder show. It's like murders and mysterious deaths that happen while you're on vacation. And it's called Slaycation.
Okay. That sounds like a movie.
It could be, but I don't think it is.
Footnote.
Turns out Slaycation is a Canadian reality series, 2 shorts, and a horror movie in development.
Slaycation is a show that I do with my wife and my business partner, Jerry Colbert. And Jerry and Kim research the case, and then they tell it to me, and I'm in the dark, so I can make comments, I can ask questions, I can make jokes. Sometimes the jokes are not received that well. They're kind of dark. But, because I don't know where the case is going, I'm doing it from a place of innocence. And then usually we hit a point where you're like, oh, God, all right, never mind, no more jokes. But then you try to find one anyway. Yeah, so that show we started just over a year ago, and it's doing great. We have a super dedicated bunch of Slaycation fans, so that's a new one. And then, of course, the Oscars one. But, at this point, we're all in on audio.
You don't have to look your best.
I've had plenty of friends tell me I have a face for podcasting.
Oh, there you go. Well, it used to be face for radio, so now nobody listens to the radio anymore.
No,
so there you go.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, Adam, this has been great fun. It was great to talk to you before this, and it's great to hear all these amazing stories. And I can't wait to listen to the Oscars podcast.
Jerry, it's been a pleasure. You're awesome. I love that you're just, keeping that movie spirit going.
That was Adam Tex Davis, a comedy writer for movies and TV shows. If you want to hear his earlier stories about the film he made with Leonardo DiCaprio, I'll have a link to his previous show on the webpage for this show at tvjerry.com. I'll also have a link to his company's website, Atomic Entertainment, as well as his podcasts.
Coming soon. In theaters.
The Monkey. In this week's thriller entry, Theo James plays twin brothers who find their father's old monkey toy in the attic, and then the killings begin, from a Stephen King short story. The Unbreakable Boy. A boy with both a rare brittle bone disease and autism has a life-affirming worldview that unites everyone around him. Starring Zachary Levi.
TV and streaming.
Running Point on Netflix. Kate Hudson plays a woman who's appointed president of the LA Waves basketball team, a family business. She aims to prove she was the right choice despite skepticism. Devil in the Family, The Fall of Ruby Frank on Hulu. Follows Ruby Frank, a former YouTube mom blogger with millions of followers who was sentenced to prison for child abuse. 1,000 Blows on Disney+. From the creator of Peaky Blinders comes this new series about two best friends who had newly arrived in London from Jamaica, and they end up in the boxing world. Toxic Town on Netflix. As a result of a toxic waste case, 3 mothers fight back when it's revealed that the rates of upper limb defects in babies born there were 3 times higher, with Rory Kinnear and Robert Carlyle. The 31st Annual Screen Actors Guild Awards on Netflix. This union votes for their faves, a final run-up to the Oscars. Speaking of which, the Spirit Awards will be on YouTube. This is the most fun awards because it's the most casual and celebrates indie films, with A.D. Bryan hosting. 1923 on Paramount Plus. The second season of this Yellowstone spinoff with Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren returns. Next week, meet Eric Brown, aka Cinnamon Brown, to talk about making his romance novels into movies. This is Jerry Williams. Thanks for listening.
For more Sister, including literally thousands of reviews,
Visit tvjerry.com.
That's a wrap.